what was the moment when was there a certain moment in your life where you were like, I need to do this? Like what pushed you over the edge? Because I mean, again, it's easier, and I guess obviously in our day, like, yes, it was easier to sort of pick up and just go and and take a chance on yourself. Yeah. But even for a female, and I know a lot of females in the sense who have moved to LA, and they all come into the whole thing of like the attitude of like, if I find an agent and I move to LA, I'm going to be famous and it's just all going to happen. And then they get there and realize that that's not what it is about. Like what you see on TV, and I've always said this before, like you don't know someone's story. You only see the glory. Right. You see everything, the cars, the money, et cetera, but you don't know what that person has gone through to get to that point. So for you, what was that moment when you were sitting in, your house or wherever you're at in Kansas City and you were like, I need to go. I need to do this. What was that moment?
Well, that moment for me is it's a rather shocking moment, and one I don't talk about all that often. But I had a drug problem as well, and I had hit real rock bottom, and I had taken my own life, and I was brought back in the ambulance on the way to the hospital, and I realized that something had to change. And I didn't know what it was going to be, and I actually worked in medicine for a few years after that while I was pursuing comedy. And comedy for me was an outlet to talk about my depression, to talk about my anger, to talk about all of those issues and relate to people with them instead of hiding them and being afraid of them. But yeah, so I did comedy for several years, like just completely under the radar, doing, bars and whatever open mics I could find until I really found myself. It wasn't until 4 years after my suicide that I actually picked up and left. But I knew probably right away that things had to change. Okay. And I took about 2 years of like figuring things out, staying in the medical field, and then quit everything. And I was like, nope, I'm going to do it. I'm going to pursue it 100%. And for me, like when I commit to something, I'm in it. Even if I'm mentally or financially probably not ready for it, if I've said I'm going to do it, if my word is my bond, and I will do it. And well, that's just my mindset.
I think that's the mindset. I mean that because, and this is the thing is what it's funny that you named the start of your podcast Raw, and that's what I love about you is because you're gonna get a raw realness and truth. Yeah. There's no faking. There's no hiding behind. In a sense, what I say, it didn't take coronavirus for people to start wearing masks. I think people mask all fucking day, and now
that. Yes.
They're all seeing, in a sense, number one, the reality. Because again, it's like when you are outspoken, opinionated. It's not even, I think, even opinionated, because I think that we should be allowed to be able to speak our minds freely, as long as we're not doing them in a disrespectful way that people don't understand. Like, words are as dangerous as a bullet to some people. And when you have gone through what, just like you, just like me, I mean, as I said, I am a suicide survivor myself as well. And I know when you hit that bottom space, it's not something that you even plan, think about. You just have a psychological break that you're just like, I don't even know what I'm doing.
In the pain.
In the pain.
All that matters.
And if you're lucky to come out from the other side, you have a choice. You have a choice to either say, okay, I'm going to stay in this place.
Stay in the life that made me this miserable.
Or you make a change. And it was like me. I mean, I went through those phases. I went through, criminal phases per se, being in a gang. And I remember the same thing of like, there's something has to change, and it's not going to be changed by anybody else. I mean, and the best part I think about when you go through something what you have gone through is when people write you off. Because now it motivates you. Now it fuels you to say, you know what? You knocked me down.
Yeah.
But I'm going to show you exactly that I can do this, and I can do it not without your help. I can do it because I'm doing it for me. So like for you, you know, going through, as you said, you know, a drug problem and a suicide. I mean, what did you find for yourself that was the lowest point in your life that you've experienced?
You know, I've had a lot of lows. I mean, honestly, I feel like everybody's life. I don't feel like I'm alone in saying this. I feel like everybody's life hits those dramatic highs and dramatic lows, and I've definitely hit a few, and I've hit a few since being in Los Angeles. You know, when I did have my I was homeless for a year. And when I was homeless, I was definitely in a bad point of my career as well. I was doing things that I would have never thought I would do in my career, and I was doing them, and I was doing them on camera, and I just didn't have the respect for myself. I think I let what everybody else was saying about me get into my brain, and then I started thinking that about myself, and I was like, well, but nothing matters, you know, I'm just this low-level life. But I think that's what I also respect about porn, is when I started respecting myself, that because people had put me at such a low level. I mean, people like take away your identity as a human when you get into pornography. I mean, they don't even associate you as a person any longer. You've made this decision to be the laughing stock of the world, and that's your fault, you know? That's what I love about it, is that it did rip away everything from me. It ripped away any eliteness I thought I had. It ripped away my college education. Not that it took it away, but people don't assume I have it, and they don't, you know, they don't give it any legitimacy. I mean, people took everything away from me. And so now I feel like, well, I've got nothing to hide. You can literally see my asshole on the internet. Like, good luck finding a secret. I have none. I've spoken about everything in my life. I've talked about my suicide. I talk about STDs. I talk about literally everything. There's nothing in my life that has gone wrong that I wouldn't tell the world. And it's such a nice feeling to have no secret.
Well, to be, because I mean, you, what I call, in a sense, number one, is that you let yourself be free to tell your truth of who you are. And I think that, you know, I had a conversation with somebody, because, I mean, as I said, I mean, I've worked in that, not as a performer, but on the other end of the business of the film, adult and film industry. And, you know, the one thing that I learned real quickly, in the sense of where people who have gotten into the business, you know, because of course there's the fans that see you and they see what you do,
right?
But they don't seem to forget, one, there's a real person there. That a lot of times, for example, like, people think that, like, where this is all they do, just fuck all day. Like, they don't think of it as a job. They don't think of it like,
I walk into rooms and just start sucking
cock.
Like, I can't contain myself.
Exactly. So, like, for you, like, you know, getting into the industry, because, I mean, as I said, everyone sort of has a story. And I mean, and a guest that I had on, Amber Nicole Miller, you know, she talked to me about people who are in the industry as well, that everyone, I think, who gets into the industry didn't wake up and said, I want to be an adult film star. They always, she said that, you know, that a lot of it comes from that person's trauma that they experienced possibly in the earlier parts of their life, that if they didn't experience the trauma that they've gone through, they probably would have gone on a different path. So for you, like, getting into the adult industry, was that something that you felt you got into based on trauma, or was it something that you were like, okay, I was either already a sexual person, so I might as well get paid for it, or C, was it something where you're like, as I've said to people, whether you strip, whether you work in a strip club, whether you're a porn star, whatever you do, you know, nobody should tell you or be able to tell you how you go about making your living. And if you're in a situation where you ain't got no family support, you ain't got no friend support, You ain't got no sugar daddy support. You do what you got to do to survive. So for you,
Yeah.
like, what was the thing that made you get into the industry?
I'd say for me, a good portion of B for sure. I had a girlfriend who had gotten into the industry right before I did. And
Okay.
she was one of the girls who, like, the day I met her, she was like, oh, I just always really wanted to do porn. Like, she even told me when she met me, she was like, oh, I just think you're so beautiful. I really want to fuck you. And I was like, I'm not into girls, but thank you. And then lo and behold, a few years later, she was my first porn, and she did fuck me, and she got everything she ever wanted. But for me, I was working 2 jobs here in Los Angeles. I was working for a construction company during the day, and I was working bartending at night, and I wasn't doing any comedy because I was just trying to stay afloat because it was so expensive. And I saw her make a bunch of money in 1 week, and I was like, if I could just do a little bit of porn, I could do comedy. And I was a super sexual person. I mean, I'm not going to lie. I had sex with hundreds of people before I got into pornography. Now, granted, I was 30 when I got into porn, but I'm saying hundreds of men I have had sex with prior to pornography. I was very much like the girl who would look for a one-night stand. I used to love one-night stands.
It's less complicated, man. Less complicated.
Yeah, I was definitely that girl. But now, I mean, porn changed my sexual prowess in all different ways. I've only gotten more sexual because I'm in my late 30s now, and my sex drive is off of the fucking charts. But I was definitely sexual, but I'm more sexual now in different ways, I will say. But it was definitely not something like, I don't think I told anybody in my life that I was doing porn that went, oh, no way. They all go, okay, saw that coming. Like, no one was shocked by this. Like, I had worked in Hooters when I was 18. When I waited tables after leaving the medical field, I waited tables at Twin Peaks, which is a restaurant. You know, I used my looks and my sexuality my entire